time to Mr. Coble for 5 minutes.
I thank the chairman and Mr. Director again. Thank you for your years of service. I want to revisit Benghazi, Mr. Director. Some recent weeks ago, the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, appeared before a Senate hearing, and she was asked about certain facts that surrounded the Libyan tragedy. And she responded, "What difference does it make?" Well, I take umbrage with that response, which I felt was insensitive and condescending. It may make a great deal of difference. Having said that, we've all seen or are familiar with reports that the FBI's evidence response team, the ERT, waited in Tripoli for more than 2 weeks for access to Benghazi. Some have said that this was due to bureaucratic entanglements. Do you agree with that?
I do not. We monitored the situation very closely after that occurrence. We had persons ready to go. Quite obviously, we were in touch immediately with the State Department requesting the opportunity to go. There were a number of factors that made this as unique a situation overseas as we have seen. This isn't the first bombing that we've had of our embassies. East Africa we had a number of years ago, but we got our people in. In this case, there were a combination of factors that are with a delay. In Benghazi, there is no law enforcement. Was not then, is not now. There is nobody that you can deal with in terms of assuring your security.
Let me ask one more question.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
Well, secondly, the Libyan government. It is dependent upon getting the visas from the Libyan government, and the Libyan government then and today is still unstable, and it's very difficult to get any decision made from a person who is a decision maker in that arena. But I would say the bottom line is to assure the security of our people when we went in. When we could assure the security of our persons, we did go in and do our on-site review.
Did you speak to anyone in the Libyan government about the delay?
We were talking through our ambassador. I think it was the ambassador there at the time, pushing hard. I know the State Department was pushing hard. We were pushing hard. But the two concerns, the safety and the reluctance of the government to move quickly on this, inhibited our ability to do what we wanted to do.
Mr. Mueller, as a former prosecutor, I know you are familiar with the importance of preserving a crime scene in order to ensure that you can collect the maximum amount of evidence. Having said that, once the ERT arrived in Benghazi, how quickly were they able to secure that scene and begin collecting evidence?
Well, the ERT team went in with a military component with support from air assets and others, and I think we did it within a 24-hour period.
Would it be fair to say that the 2-week delay in the FBI's ability to secure the scene of the attacks led to the corruption of the scene?
I would say that I'm not certain I would say corruption of the scene. I would say that you always want to get to the scene as soon after the occurrence. Certainly the scene had been entered by a number of people, and it was not as pristine as we would like. Absolutely.
Mr. Mueller, would it also be fair to say that the corrupted scene led to less evidence collection since we cannot establish the chain of custody? That is to say that the same evidence at the scene was the same when you all began as when 2 weeks prior.
I think, yeah, I would say yes. There was the delay adversely impacted the ability to gather evidence in a variety of ways, and adversely impacted the investigation.
Has this put a damper on our ability to pursue leads?
I'm sorry?
Has this put a damper on our ability to pursue leads and our suspects?
Well, you don't know what you don't know, what you may have missed. I can tell you that the investigation is ongoing. We've had some success that I can't get into today. But it is a very difficult operating environment, not just at the scenes itself, but obtaining the cooperation of witnesses and others who may have information relating to
my time's about out. Mr. Mueller, this Benghazi tragedy still hangs in my craw. I'm not directing this at you, but I'm directing it at somebody. We still don't know all the facts. I don't suggest there's a cover-up, but it has the trappings of a cover-up. And I repeat, it hangs in my craw. As my late granddaddy used to say, it makes my coffee taste bad of a morning. but we'll see what happens. Thank you for being with us.
Chair thanks the gentleman and recognizes the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Scott, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Director Mueller, thank you for your very distinguished service. As you know, people acquiring firearms can, with a gun show loophole and a lot of other exceptions, easily obtain a firearm without a criminal background check. What difference would a universal or virtually universal background check make?
Well, at the outset, it would mean fewer persons who have the characteristics, debilitating characteristics, would be in possession of guns.
On the issue of these telephone records, you've indicated how the acquisition of all telephone records helps to protect us from terrorism. Is it true that this data can be used for things other than terrorism?
No.
You can't use it for criminal investigation?
No.
You can't use it if the purpose of the Section 104 wiretap is a significant purpose, that terrorism is a significant purpose, there may be some other purpose?
I'm sorry, I missed the question, sir.
Under Section 104, you can get the warrant. You have to show that a significant purpose of the surveillance is to obtain foreign intelligence information. Significant purpose was a change in the law from the purpose, which suggests that it's the primary purpose. If it's just a significant purpose, that would leave open the idea that there is another purpose for getting the information. When I asked Attorney General Gonzalez that question, what other purpose you could be using these warrants for, he blurted out criminal investigation, of course, without the normal probable cause and everything else. Is the acquisition of this information, this megadata, solely for protection against terrorism, or can it be used for something else?
Terrorism.
Now, if you tripped over some other things, like you noticed a crime, could you use it in a criminal prosecution?
No. Not that I'm aware of. The strictures are that you cannot. Now, there may be a way to go to the court if there was an egregious crime that you get some permission from the court, but the court would have to authorize
The
it.
exclusionary rule works because you don't illegally obtain evidence, because if you got it, you can't use it. There is a suspicion that some of us have that you're getting this information and you can use it if you've got one of these task forces and one of the guys can get a FISA warrant, the other guy can't. Well, you go get the FISA warrant and we'll track down, because you've got one of the guys in the place as an agent of a foreign government, so we can go listen in and see if we can't trip over a crime, then use the evidence. You're saying you can't use it for anything other than terrorism.
You cannot. The statute, if you're talking about 215, says reasonable articulable suspicion that a particular telephone number was associated with al-Qaeda or a foreign power. It's very simple.
And, yeah, significant purpose, not
Yes.
primary purpose.
I'm uncertain on, I'd have to go back and...
We changed it from primary purpose to significant purpose, which just opened up the idea that which just opens up the idea that you could have some ulterior motive.
Well, on that particular language and language change, if you allow me to get back to you, I'd like to give some thought to that.
And so that this information that we're getting can only be used for terrorism. That's what we're hearing.
Yes, under 215, yes.
In the IRS situation, there's some question as to whether some progressive groups were also targeted for scrutiny under Section 501c4 abuse. But if it can be shown that only groups targeted were targeted because of political views, would that violate criminal law?
I'd have to, that's speculative. Excuse me just one second, if I could. I just wanted to check where I was right on. I want to check my answers on my previous, on your previous questions. Thank you.
Okay. On the Boston bombing, obviously there was a little information. There was information out there that you could have used. Does do your limited resources limit your ability to track down each and every lead that you're given and compromise your ability to protect us against terrorism?
We get thousands upon thousands of terrorism leads each year. The Boston office is up in that range of those number, 1,000 a year. In this particular case, though, I do believe that when we got the lead on Tamerlan from the Russians, that the agent did an excellent job in investigating, utilizing the tools that are available to him in that kind of investigation. As I think you're aware, he did all the records checks. He went out to the interviewed persons at the college where Tamerlan was there for a period of time. Ultimately interviewed the parents, interviewed the Tamerlan himself, sent the information back to Russia, and on 3 separate occasions we asked the Russians for additional information that might give us indications or evidence that he was a terrorist. So I think we did a thorough job in following that lead. And at that point in time, I do not know that there was much else that could be done within the statutes, within the Constitution, to further investigate him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.